there we go. All right, let me get this link shared out, make sure everything is working. We will get started. I'm going to start with Bitcoin, maybe look at some scalp setups that I'll explain that I'm interested in. All right, sharing out on Twitter and then Discord, and we'll get started. All right, I'll give everyone a few minutes to get in here before we get started. Bitcoin in a choppy downtrend on the 4-hour. Really nice interaction with technical levels. Doing a little bit of a review of this price action. It's been quite clean. It's kind of funny. It's hard to imagine, like looking at this today, that all the trades I was taking yesterday were just in this, right? It's kind of a funny, but very clean setups in here. Got some really nice scalps. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about those. We might get some similar setups today. Also spent a little bit of time reviewing. I had this short planned here, and I had it planned from way down here, and I didn't end up taking the short trigger. Maybe a little bit of a error there. There was certainly an opportunity to get in here as well, but very clean setups. Maybe what we'll do is we'll review some of the important levels that I'm interested in trading around. But I'm just going to pop over to the Discord really quickly. Yeah, I have this idea planned. This is shorting around 59,400 to take these local highs, run up into this key retracement level, this parallel structure. And updated here, price approaching a level of interest, but no short trigger there. Then preparing to take this short. But really didn't like the look of order flow as we pushed up into the highs. We came up into the highs. Was getting ready to fire off the short there, and I didn't end up taking it. I had the idea of the retracement and shorting the lower high, but I didn't end up being available there, and we did get that trigger with the retracement, lower high, bearish divergence, but this would have just printed straight into these lows for an 8-hour trade. But yeah, even looking at it today, certainly a little bit of maybe a bit of an error not taking that trade. But got some nice shorts in here. We had really bearish absorption forming. So even here we started seeing some bearish absorption, and the idea of coming down and flushing some of these longs was, I think, pretty straightforward. You know, I think it's good to do this review with the Discord because it's sort of removed some of the hindsight elements to my synopsis here on price action, just the things I was looking at the time. Even here, this was before this initial move down. Lots of longs sitting up here ready to be flushed. That breakdown came not long after. Just pointing out this idea of price coming down and wiping out all this liquidity locally yesterday. And there didn't end up being really a clean long trigger down here. I'd kind of explained what I might be interested in longing, but I didn't end up taking this long, and price chopped around a little bit. And just giving some order flow updates here and why I wasn't long yet, but what I'd be looking for to get into a long. And turns out there wasn't really any nice long setups. This was in the BTC updates channel. I just switched over to the scalping channel and ended up taking shorts in this bearish absorption. And I pointed this out yesterday in the on Twitter as well. So, but really nice clean moves down off of these aggressive longs. So we're gonna be taking a look at these similar levels today, and I'm gonna be keeping an eye on order flow. We'll do a quick review of it. Nothing too particularly bearish here locally, but yeah, I think coming back up and retesting this wick could be an interesting opportunity to get short, depending on order flow. Although I faded this short due to order flow, and that didn't work out too well. But I think, you know, this level clearly is important resistance. I was personally able to get short on it here, and then we came up and retested it. Obviously, came down and front ran this wick. So I think the major local levels to trade around, I'm going to give my local. I usually start with my high time frame and then go local. I'm going to go local and then go high time frame today. This should be pretty straightforward. This is our local resistance. Come up, fill this wick. If we break out, just got to be looking towards these highs again. If we reject, got to be looking for these lows. This is actually a major level down here that we slightly front ran, taking this weekly candle low. And I'll talk a little bit about what's important about this level. It was my major target, and when I get into higher time frames, it was a major target for a low in this price action. And when I get into my higher time frame analysis, I'll explain kind of what I'm looking for if this level holds up, because I wouldn't mind trading this back up to 62,000, break out of this choppy downtrend. But right now, we're just interacting with local structures, and I don't really think it makes sense to be doing anything but taking scalp trades today, right? Longs down from these lows make sense. Retesting these lows makes sense up into the 62K region. But I wouldn't long here, targeting here. The risk is not worth the reward in this case, I think. But anyways, let's clean off this chart a little bit. So the two trades I'm kind of looking at today is taking these highs, coming back down into the lows. We can note, I'll pop over to order flow here. You know, the reason I was shorting yesterday up here is it's some quite aggressive longs coming in into these highs, forming quite a large bearish divergence in order flow. So you can see here CVD is making a much higher high, price is making a lower high relative to CVD here. It's kind of a shorthand way of just saying, hey, there's a lot of aggressive longs coming in, and relative to the amount of aggressive longs coming in, price isn't really moving up. We can actually see the long orders here, 4 million, 8.1 million, coming across the top of this range. Bearish divergence is getting quite clear. And then the horizontal resistance becomes clear. Like, where's the limit seller sitting? Just right here, right? It's not too complicated. Aggressive buying pressures coming into these highs, getting absorbed, and then the sell-off comes. And we have more aggressive longs come in after all these longs are wiped out, and right back up into the same level, 10 million, 11 million, and that's why I'm shorting that again, right? It's just the exact same level. The seller is still there, clearly. Doesn't mean he has to win, it's just the probabilities of lower are there. And even as price breaks down, we see more longs come in and get absorbed. They're not flushed out, more aggressive longing, and kind of the continued bearish absorption forming here. And then again, price moves up, just wicks the level and rejects again. So for whatever reason, I made this joke in the Discord yesterday. You know, if you were to ask this guy what his trading strategy is, it's to wait for price to go up to a resistance level that it keeps rejecting from, and then long that level, and then sit and wait to get liquidated. There's some really big size coming in to the resistance here, and just clear absorption, like not shorting this. Doesn't mean it has to work, but not shorting this is kind of crazy, because you have some really big traders on your side limit shorting all of this aggressive buying pressure. But anyways, we'll see what kind of happens. We've sort of neutralized at the in CBD a little bit locally. This obviously wiped out a ton of long positions. We have more opening here. And I would say that locally, I'd still like to see lower, but we could come up, take these highs, even take these highs, come back and rotate to these lows. So I'm just going to be looking for a clean long trigger if I get one. And I'm going to be looking for a short trigger up here if we see all these aggressive longs come back in and get absorbed. I should check the chat just to make sure there's no issues. So we're going to go over all the levels on Bitcoin, and then we're going to take a look at some alts. Someone says, I took that one while we were on stream a couple days ago. Yeah, are you referring to the members live stream where I didn't take the short? The short I explained I didn't take, but that printed? I'm sure a lot of members did take it, but the yellow line on the chart it's something called CBD. I have a lot of educational material on it in the Discord. We won't turn this into a CBD live stream. All right, let's go over all the mid time frame and high time frame levels here of interest to me. And by the way, you know, I don't think anyone should be trading if they're not an extremely experienced trader. They haven't already proven themselves the ability to be profitable paper trading, and then with small amount of funds, and just, you know, I'm explaining what I'm doing for educational purposes, not as a suggestion of what anyone else should do. All right, let's open up some folders here. Here's this other folder. This isn't it. It got reorganized, or did it get deleted? It's not really a big deal. Probably better just to pull the levels again on live stream. Might be buried somewhere. Sometimes these get moved around. All right, let's go to the 4-hour chart. So there's basically a series of trades I'm interested in. But it's more, it's not necessarily that the levels have to come in this order, although I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but these are certainly the levels I want to trade around. So if we hop over to the Discord really quickly, I'm just going to point out, this is what we're going to kind of recreate on the charts here. So you can see the date here. This was back on September 1st. Just explaining all the structures on the daily chart that I'm interested in. So the first was taking this weekly candle low, which we have now taken, right? That's a pretty clear idea on the mid time frames. Hey, I want to long a sweep of this liquidity under this low, long a reclaim. You know, on the daily chart, this is sort of what's in play right now. We have this really nice wick right here at 61,326. Hey, maybe I want to look to take profits into this high, and maybe look to reshort back into this level. Maybe form a little bit of a range here. Maybe TP1, stop to entry, take a short, take profits on the short down here, stop to entry. This gets stopped out of entry. Maybe we don't come retest the level, and the rest of the short gets stopped out, and so on and so forth. But hey, maybe I want to relong this up towards this 67K level. So these are the main levels. If we break down this kind of 54, 53K region, well, frankly, I'm just looking for 42,000. And that's where this kind of, some of these swing short targets are. So I'm going to break down these levels a little bit more and go over how I would personally trade them. All right, so I shared this last week, this idea of coming and taking this weekly candle low, sweeping that liquidity, long setup there, targeting up into this high. Presents itself as a wick on the daily chart, but we'll keep it on our charts as a. We'll keep the chart on the 4-hour chart so we can just see some of the structure. So the idea here is just trading around all the major horizontals and retracements, and maybe chop some people up before a bigger move comes, and that could be to the upside, although I lean towards the downside, towards a major harmonic target. So the idea here, long in the sweep of this wick that was here, you know, we do have a fib below us that's front run that I wouldn't mind tapping at some point, but we can always come back for that level later. And I'm gonna just remain interested in trading any sweep of these new lows, these daily lows into this level. So we could get that today, or we could break out, and we could get that next week or in a couple weeks, depending how price moves. And obviously there's lower time frame setups that are worthwhile to keep an eye on. Well, I'm just looking at all the mid time frame to high time frame structures. So how could I imagine this range playing out, or this price action playing out, and eventually leading down to the 42K harmonic target? I'll just put it on the chart because it shouldn't make it too messy. I have an Elliott wave count. So lots of ways to count this, I think, but I think simple levels is the way to go. I have one more bat folder, I thought, but it doesn't really matter. Well, I'd like to see these lows hold locally for some long setups, but again, we're just grinding into this really choppy downtrend. I mean, frankly, this just looks bearish, right? Choppy downtrend is kind of starting to get that rounded look to it. Anything like this, a big move up to the upside, would be like a big fake out kind of idea, right? Chop people up before move down. But price action starting to have kind of this look to it, right? So, or you could reverse the chart and kind of a grindy uptrend, grindy downtrend. So these like to end in impulses to the downside, which is part of the reason why I'm kind of interested in carrying some shorts from scalps, looking to scalp these lower time frame levels. But anyways, if we lose this and we flip this to resistance, I am looking for 42K as the next major level. But here's an alternative path to get there. Hey, maybe we hold this up. Maybe, you know, maybe we chop around here a little bit more. Maybe we don't. We come up and take this wick high. Obviously, a lot of people are going to get stopped out of shorts here. Placed above this high, there's going to be a lot of people break out longing. If we fail to break out here, I'll just take a tight invalidation short. It's a nice risk reward. The idea of forming a range right back into these lows. Trade it right back up to the highs. Oh, look, you know, we've just formed a range. Price has gotten really choppy. People are shorting the lows, getting stopped out of their longs from the highs, liquidated, vice versa, back and forth. And I would really love to see one more move up to tap this point of control with a clean rejection. Take this high, and this will be sort of the death blow to bulls in the case we go to 42K. Which is, everyone will feel, I think, really vindicated for holding longs. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of top longs here. And I mean, even looking at this, it's kind of hard to imagine another rejection up here without taking all-time highs. But this point of control is a major target. And the short setup is kind of clean. You have easy invalidation. You wait for this high to be lost. Obviously, there could be some local short triggers up here, but assuming there's not, just wait for the liquidity above the high to get taken. Wait for the price to break back below this level. It's a pretty clear short trigger. It's a high time frame level. Target down into the 42K region. So this is how I would like to see price action play out here, because it would be fun to trade. Let me just put this in a folder. Doesn't look too bad on the chart, I don't think. Just like to look at it. I'm just going to look at this as kind of a naked chart here. Simple levels. I think my biggest like this is all just an idea based on if we hold this, targeting up here, if we lose this, targeting back here, if we're holding this, you know, target some of the longs up into this level. But probably for the bearish case here, my biggest concern would just be that we don't even come up and retest these highs because this looks quite bearish until we start breaking some of this grinding downtrend. But that doesn't mean I would swing short down here personally. I might scalp short like these highs, for example, and take profits and then look to carry some of it in case of a breakdown. But yeah, just looking at this for a second, I mean, I like the look of this as a way to resolve this choppy mini month range for a big breakdown to the downside. But yeah, it's always nice to have a plan now because, of course, if price does come up and take these highs into the point of control, I mean, everyone's going to be bullish. I would imagine 99% of people. No one's expecting this to be a bearish outcome. And I'd like to just have like a really simple plan to get short here with invalidation. Let me just read through the chat really quick. Someone's saying, why is Bitcoin, people are saying lots of things, but someone's saying, why is Bitcoin crashing? Is it crashing right now? I don't know what time frame you're talking about, but I mean, right now it's taking these lows. That was, I would say, a fairly obvious target for price, and we're in a choppy downtrend. And until we're not, we are. But personally, I wouldn't mind wiping out all of these lower highs at some point. And I'm interested in shorts, just back up where price was rejecting yesterday. You know, people would, there's bullish cases too, right? I mean, that's kind of why I want to have longs from this level, right? And the bullish case is, well, we're just putting in, we've grabbed all this liquidity underneath 50K. We're putting in our higher low, and I'm willing to long down to this level. And I explained that in the Discord. You know, it's always possible that price just rips through all of this resistance. I'd like to be carrying some longs from the lows, because maybe there's no short trigger here. Maybe you're sitting here waiting for a short trigger, waiting for price to break back below this high, and it doesn't. And it just carries higher, and you just carry your longs. Doge showed a lot of relative strength. I shared this. This is kind of a local long setup that I would add on potentially. Have some alerts set down there. Although we're just kind of grinding up. But I shared this on Twitter as well. Shared it a long time ago on the Discord, and I was taking the long. And the idea was just coming down into this, taking these lows, into this fib retracement. I shared the idea way back here. The idea of actually, the high was actually in the idea as well, coming back down into these lows, have a nice parallel channel taking that long, and this for me is a swing long. And I'd add to it if I get the chance, although I may not given this price action. But yeah, so since the lows were put in, Doge has been relatively strong against Bitcoin, which is a good early sign for the thesis of a big rally from here on Doge. Here, let me this was back August 20th, so quite a while ago. Just sharing on Doge, this idea of coming up, taking these local highs, and then coming down into this level, right? That's exactly where we're bouncing from. Quite a simple setup. Just takes a lot of patience to wait for that low to be taken. And that was the idea, right? To come up, take these highs, rotate back down to the lows. And I had updated that level a few times. I took a stop on TRX. I had an idea. I ran a really wide stop, so a small position with like a stop loss 5% away. So my position's quite small. It was just going to let price chop around in around these daily lows here, and cut if for a really small loss if we couldn't hold that level as support. And I used this as an opportunity to just get out for a partial loss on TRX. Level wasn't holding. I'd also talked about this level on the members live stream a few days ago, before this low got taken. This was kind of an interesting idea for a long, right? Just come in, it's almost the same setup as Doge. Like if we just overlay Doge's price action to this, you just have the high, price takes the high, rotates down, takes this minor low into the GP. You have a high, and this was a major level for a short up here. Ultimately targeting down into this wick. So I guess I could go over my kind of ETH thesis, because it's quite it's kind of important, because I'm actually looking for ETH to get strong against Bitcoin as the more likely scenario. So this was just a simple SR retest, right? Like I think I posted on Twitter that this was the least surprising price action I've ever seen. And the reason was, if we go here, this is over a month ago. And over a month ago, well, I just drew this out, right? Horizontal resistance, come back and refill the wick. So price just SR flipping here. Let's just go back to the ETH chart. I'm going to explain my ETH thesis here. This was way back here. Horizontal resistance, just come retest the level and then back and fill the wick. We have local levels now in play as well, but I continue to update that, right? Like as price approached it, that I want to short that. So it's also aligned with the 382, which we got a really nice clean interaction with. Just short back into what level? Well, I want to short back into the level that price just bounced from. And we can, as a big TP target, right? So let me go here. And what I'm doing, like this is super important to show you guys. Give me 1 second. Because when you understand what I'm about to show you, you'll just understand that this stuff isn't that complicated. It, like, obviously you have to learn the concepts and ideas and whatever, and they either work or they don't. It's just about risk reward. But let me go. So the idea here, down here, I have the idea of the SR retest. This is a very simple, technically structured idea. Nice alignment with the 382 fib, very very clean. And I already can understand that if price rejects from there, let me pull up the Discord here. Well, what's my GP going to be? Where's this level going to be? It's going to start to align with some of these lows, right? So I can project it. So I have this level pulled before, back here, before the highs get taken, the level gets pressed. This is a major target because if we reject from here, this pivot low becomes our GP. That could be a nice idea for TP1. Hold on, I forgot to switch over to trading view. So I can pull the levels back here. And I can form this idea of trading a range quite early on and then set alerts and be patient. I have an alert set here and an alert set here. And here I'm drawing out, right? I want to short this. Come up. We have this local high here. So I'm refining the idea a little bit in the Discord. Local high. The idea of short, long, short, back into the wick. You know, you could trade these as a range. But these updates are all quite old. We obviously came up and, but yeah. All those long trades can be planned, is my point, a month ahead of time or weeks ahead of time. But I kind of like this idea of just trading this low up into this high and actually just shorting ETH back into this wick. Take these highs, short trigger would be here. If we break out of here, probably just re-shorting these highs. Double tap the SR level. Both of these would be interesting shorts. Just re-short a retest of these highs or short a failed breakout here to fill this wick. And I actually think it's possible that we get something like this on ETH while Bitcoin goes down to 42K. So this is the low that ETH made when Bitcoin went to 50K. But I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing some relative strength, and I'll explain why out of ETH. Just clean up this chart a little bit. I'll throw this in here. For one, we can just note this is just a move down into the GP. Golden pocket, 618 of the move. Such a powerful idea. I always have it on my charts as a potential confluence. Taking these lows. But yeah, the idea here would just be either come up, make a lower high, fill, take these lows, fill this wick, and I'm going to be looking to long ETH back up towards these highs. But ETH BTC is actually at, this is the 3-day chart, quite major support on a high time frame. And so what would happen if Bitcoin nukes to 42K, but we kind of see a more resilient ETH? Well, maybe we see ETH BTC start bouncing out of this level in a nice descending channel, tapping the lows, ascending structure, horizontal levels, key fibs. We start to see ETH BTC rallying off this level, which in this case would just look like a stronger ETH, right? Well, ETH makes an equal low. We see Bitcoin making a new low relative to its 48K low. So Bitcoin's doing this, running all this liquidity, and ETH is just retesting the low it made here. And yeah, I'll be interested in longs off of that level on ETH for the very reason that if we see a stronger ETH, well, there's a higher payoff to longing ETH here than there's Bitcoin. So I think the levels here are really simple. Doesn't mean price has to reject. It just means you're given kind of clear trading setups. Price can come up, take these local highs. That could be a nice setup. Filling this wick, nice long setup. Re-shorting a failed reclaim of this big horizontal level. Another short setup. Basically have a big range here and trades kind of in the mid time frame structure within the range. Quite simple, but that's sort of the breakdown of my ETH thesis currently. Let me read through some of the comments. Someone's asking for an ETH up or a Tesla update. Yeah, we can take a quick look at Tesla. So this is kind of a mess. Basically have shared one chart for a year on Tesla. It was this chart. So I think $65 is a big high time frame target. Probably wouldn't come till sometime next year. Right now, price is at pretty major resistance. We have our 618 and some daily highs here that just got taken, right? So you have an alert set there. So for continuation to the downside, well, it'd be nice to see this hold. If you followed my kind of Tesla updates via Twitter, you'll know that I long down here, targeting this high, and then I shorted here, right? But yeah, let me kind of share a couple extra thoughts here on Tesla. Give me 1 second. Hold on. What a mess. All right. So the last update I gave on Tesla in the Discord was this. I said, not sure how many people are following along / trading Tesla, but I thought this short was a good example of where I would prefer to take profits and add back on something like this rather than trail a stop on a swing for a take profit. Very hard to stay in a position like this to deep targets trailing your stops. So I'm going to explain this. Here I would you either leave it alone, let it get run to stop, or take profits and look to add back. So I pointed this out here, and where am I looking to add back? Well, back taking these daily highs. So this is when price is down here, right? TP now and look to take profits, add back, taking this daily candle high into the GP at 240. So what is price doing right now? It's rallied and it's about to take the high into this GP at 240, take these daily highs, right? So that's my exact plan to add back to my shorts. But the idea here would be that you're short from up here, you've taken profits, and you're just adding back with new invalidation on the add back. And it might hold, it might not, but I think even from down here, last month, this just looks like quite a simple idea, right? Just come back up, take these highs. Probably don't need to hold your entire swing short after a straight down 32% move on Tesla. Rather take profits, add back. So anyways, that's my thoughts. If we break out of here, well, got to start looking for these highs to be tested again. But if we reject from here, it's a really nice lower high and continuation. I think a very simple idea. But you can see, I'll just show really quickly for anyone who's not followed along, because it's kind of cool. Give me a second. So let's look at just look at this really quick. I shared this all on Twitter though, so I'm sure pretty much everyone has seen this. This is quite an old idea I shared back at the start of the year. First I showed the order flow of Tesla, just noting it was quite bearish at the time. But the idea of just coming down into this trend line, taking this low at like around 140 into this trend line, rallying straight up into this high at 267, wicking that high, faking out this big descending structure, and then rotating back to the downside. So I think it's quite cool because this was back here and the setup was come test this trend line, wick this high, rotate back to the downside. Literally the only chart I shared on Tesla from here. Oh, I forgot to switch screens. But anyways, yeah, came into this trend line, wick this high, rotate to the downside. But those are my local thoughts. I'm keeping it simple. I think we have some high time frame levels being interacted with. Prices started to downtrend. Signs of, I know there's going to be rallies, lower highs as the most likely outcome here. So this was my idea for a lower high. We either put it in here or we don't. If we don't, then we'll carry higher, and that's okay. I actually want to share this on XRP as well. I'm quite bullish on XRP. I've talked about these ideas for a long time. I think this has been a real test of patience as well, which is I'm quite interested in longing. There's a big point of control, multi-year point of control across this range. Right here, aligned with our GP, there's not a lot of internal structure here, but there's some decent horizontal structure. I was kind of looking at this parallel structure. It may be relevant, it may not, but I'm going to be keeping a close eye on XRP if we come down and retest this multi-year POC. Aligned with the GP, around 50 to 51 cents, but I mean, obviously we could have a big wick. It's a little rough here though, not a lot of internal structure to play around with, unless you get into the lower time frames here. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on this level and targeting all-time highs. I could even just go to this really quickly. So this is, you'll notice a lot of the actual highs before all these moves were on my charts as well. But this is back when price was at 61 cents. The idea of waiting for either this low or back into the multi-year POC. And you know, it all looks simple in hindsight, but it takes a lot of patience to wait for this. This was the first long setup idea. Just come and sweep these lows, which I still think is valid, but I'm much more interested in this major multi-year POC. So we'll see how it plays out here. I have alert set. If I don't get that set up, there's going to be lots of other setups, and still a reasonable setup to be long here. I mean, invalidation below this wick, targeting all-time highs, risk reward's pretty straightforward. I guess I could share this kind of whiff idea. I could talk about it really quickly. Obviously whiff claiming some support here. Nice reactions off of these technical retracements. I quite like the idea of whiff coming up and taking all these highs around 290. Again, around $3 into the GP. And I wrote this out as a joke. And that's not really a joke, but the idea is every Twitter post a month from now, whiff, breakout of massive trend line, looking for a range to form, chop around this trend line and break out. So I like this idea. Everyone's going to be talking about this big breakout on whiff. Horizontal levels getting swept. Everyone gets trapped. And then we just form a big range here. Come back down to the lows. This becomes a horizontal range. Maybe chop around this trend line a little bit, retest and whatever. And everyone's looking for this. Of course, a big breakout might come, but I'm definitely going to short this with tight invalidation. You can almost see the range that's going to form with all these highs right at this level, wicking this high. So anyways, I'm going to be willing to take some shorts on whiff there and take a stop loss if they don't work. Obviously, it's just setting alerts and waiting, right? CRV, talk a little bit about this. I mean, I shared this on Twitter too. I said, the dream, come up, run this high. Not surprised to be bouncing here, intermediary support. Shared this, just come back down, take the low, and I'll be looking for a long setup there. But there's just something, it's so interesting because like people get so someone's emotionally invested in everything, right? Like everyone thinks they're so smart, they know that they've found the perfect project, and somehow they know that it will never retrace, and they just form all these ideas in their head. But the structures here are so simple. They're so simple. It's like not even, you don't even have to spend any time on a chart to be like, maybe I should be worried. Maybe I should be thoughtful about price just coming up and retesting this level, double topping, sweeping this wick, and then just rejecting and forming a range. I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, but comments are something along the vein of like that, you know, everyone thinks there's going to be a pullback. You'll never see sub 30 cents again. Good luck missing the boat, whatever it is. It's like, all right. Or we could just range here, because look at the chart, you dummies. How has this become impossible already? This is never going to happen. All right. I'm kind of rambling a little bit. Let's look at Bitcoin for a second. And you know, maybe I won't spend too much time on here unless something interesting happens. I would consider getting back live. Like just randomly starting a live stream and sharing the link if something really interesting happens. Like if I'm available and we are taking these lows or even these highs, but especially these highs, just firing off a live stream and covering the order flow live. There's educational materials on a lot of things. Swing failures, order flow. But you know, there is something to be said about like, you know, where people would say like it's tricky to deal with horizontals, like you just said. No, it's not really. I mean, the levels either hold or they don't, right? Like, you have the idea of coming, taking this high. This is a good example, especially because I didn't end up taking the short, although I could have taken it here. But the level doesn't break out. You put on the short and you have your invalidation. And if it breaks out, well, then you take a stop loss. And if it doesn't, you get 8-1 on your risk. Like somebody in the chat said, they took this short. I was on a members live stream here, and I'd said like the short might work, and it's still a valid trigger, and I'm just not going to take it. The funny thing is I just missed it, but the setup I was going to take instead actually came, which was to come and take these local lows, put in a lower high, and then short that on bearish divergences, and that's what we got, bearish CVD there, but I missed it. But anyways, you know, you just take it. You just take the short. If it doesn't work, you lose $1. If it works, you make $8. A little bit of a local range forming here on Bitcoin. Some signs of resistance, right? I haven't even looked at order flow during this live stream. Let's just take a quick look. Maybe something is happening here that's interesting. A little bit of bearish absorption, nothing major, but certainly some. Nothing to write home about, but I think some top longers are likely to get chopped up here. So I'll just point that out really quickly, and then maybe I'll end this live stream. Not much going on here. I mean, I don't think there's anything too complicated in terms of Bitcoin. The levels are quite straightforward. Obviously, we're in a choppy downtrend, so that's going to wreck a lot of people. But even in a choppy downtrend, I think the levels are pretty straightforward. But we can see here, right? CBD is making higher highs, price is making lower highs, and all that's indicating is that there's some aggressive longs coming in. We can see 1.9 million, 2.1, 1.1. It's nothing major. It's nothing like the 20 million we were seeing over here. But there's a limit seller sitting here, and we don't know how big that limit seller is. They haven't really been tested with any big positions, but they're certainly just sitting here with a limit sell order, absorbing these longs, and so I won't be surprised to see these get flushed out. This limit seller take some of that liquidity. I mean, you just have to be a little bit. I mean, it's not to say that you can't get long triggers on breakouts. You know, I'm sure a lot of these people are just longing this, right? It's like, well, and it's not unreasonable. Price is broken out and it's reclaiming these highs, right? So it's like a breakout, retest. So they're just kind of longing the signs of strength here. But I don't know. I really don't like these styled setups. Like the retests on the bigger moves, kind of nice, but just price wicking through a level and sort of chopping around sideways here. But even here, if I was going to take this, like a lot of these positions probably have, like if we break down this low, their invalidation is probably immediately under these lows. Like we just wick them and we'll see all these longs get flushed out and then price rallies. I'd rather, if I was trading this, one long the lows of this local range or long the sweep. But that said, yeah, I won't be too hard on these guys. I guess it's a fairly reasonable setup. Just not my favorite type of setup. I think you'd be hard pressed to find this being EV positive unless like when they work you're absolutely always holding it to your position to final target. It's like you have to squeeze every penny out of the ones that work. Yeah, Vic, shoot me a DM. You'll get the same price you joined at. Yeah, but you should have access to that. But if you don't, just shoot me a DM. Many of you will know that the price of, I gave a lot of warnings. The price of the Discord has doubled, and that is now live. It is funny because every time I message, like gave a warning, a bunch of people would join, and I gave so many warnings, and then even I just gave another warning, like this is the absolute last warning because it's updating right now, and then somebody's like, oh, I missed it, but I gave so many warnings, and I even extended the time, so whatever. I mean, I think the value is just unquestionable, although I know even at the higher price, but I know it's out of reach for some, so we'll look at some ways to get some members in there that can't afford it. Yeah, I don't really, I mean, I guess I don't really want to sit on this live stream anymore. I didn't really know what was going to happen here. I thought maybe we might get a push up to some of this liquidity. Wanted to go over some levels, but yeah, it's just kind of boring. Just waiting for some alerts to go off. And yeah, maybe what I'll do is if something really interesting is happening and I'm available, I'll just get live. I'll share it on Twitter, share it on Discord, and we'll take a look at what's going on. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was valuable or interesting. And if not,